I woke up in a novel. With a system, no less. Some kind of glitch in the cosmic mainframe. The system told me to be a simp. Said if I completed the mission, it would send me back to reality. But as I stared at the pregnant woman on the couch, my supposed one that got away, I had to pause. The kid wasn't mine. Why the hell was I expected to play dad? System. Host quickly. Reassure her, dote on her, accept the child in her belly as your own. Me, get lost. Back to reality? Why would I want to go back? To keep running for DoorDash? In this world, I was Jackson Price, heir to $1 billion fortune. I made my decision. I wasn't going anywhere. I was going to lie down and not get up. So yeah, I've been dropped into a book. Or more accurately, a Frankenstein's monster stitched together from a dozen different trashy romance novels. A robotic voice was currently giving me the rundown inside my own head. Ding! Host Soul Fusion complete. The Get Stronger by doting on the heroine system is now active. Newbie mission. Console the returning heroine, Jessica Miller. Accept the child she carries and promise her a lavish wedding. Mission complete reward. God-tier medical skills and a return ticket to your original world. I, Jackson Price, stood in the living room of my Greenwich, Connecticut estate, staring at the woman on the designer sofa. She was a vision of delicate, tear-streaked misery. Her name was Jessica Miller, the great unrequited love of the guy whose body I now occupied. 3 years ago, she dumped him to chase some vague dream of finding herself in Europe with another guy. Now she was back, with a belly that looked ready to pop. She was putting on a real show, dabbing at her eyes while nervously watching my reaction. Jack, I know I don't have a right to come back. But he left me. I don't have anyone else. This baby is innocent. Please, for the sake of what we used to have, just let us stay. Before I could even formulate a response, the system in my head went nuts. Host, say yes. This is the first step on your road to greatness. As long as you take on this responsibility, as long as you dote on her, you will reach the pinnacle of life. My face remained blank. Play the fall guy? And that was my path to greatness. I glanced down at the Patek Philippe on my wrist, a watch with more commas in its price tag than my old bank account had digits. I looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the fleet of limited edition supercars gleaming in the driveway. Me, Jackson Price, the sole heir to the Price family fortune. Did I really need to come back? As for returning to my world, to do what? Keep delivering lukewarm tacos in the blistering sun, begging for 5-star reviews? Go back to my shoebox apartment, eating ramen and dreaming of a future that would never come? I was tired. This world had money, free time, and a staff of servants. All I had to do was exist, and I could enjoy the peak of human luxury. Go back. Not a chance in hell. Jack, why aren't you saying anything? Are you mad at me? Seeing my silence, Jessica's sobs grew louder, as if she were the most wronged person on earth. I dug a finger in my ear. It was getting noisy. I gestured to my butler, Abernathy, who stood silently by the wall. Abernathy, sir. He bowed his head, his posture impeccable. I pointed a thumb at Jessica. Make her quiet. Abernathy blinked, clearly not expecting that. After all, everyone in the Price household knew that the old Jackson Price had been Jessica Miller's most loyal puppy. But Abernathy was a professional. He understood immediately and made a polite, but firm, gesture toward the door. Miss Miller, Mr. Price is tired and needs to rest. I will handle your arrangements. Jessica stared at me in disbelief, her tears forgotten. Jack, you're kicking me out. I couldn't be bothered to answer her. Instead, I issued a command to the voice in my head. System, deactivate. Host, what did you say? The system seemed to short-circuit. I said, deactivate. I quit. My tone was flat, but final. Find someone else to be your simp. Leave me alone. Warning. Warning. Host is refusing to execute the mission and will be punished. System will now restrict your physical functions. As soon as it finished, a heavy weakness washed over me. It felt like all the strength had been sucked out of my bones. I frowned. Interesting. Abernathy, I said again. Give me a hand. Sir, Abernathy rushed forward to support me. I leaned on him, watching as the security team escorted Jessica out of the mansion. A small smirk played on my lips. Threaten me with physical weakness? Perfect. I didn't feel like walking anyway. Abernathy, for dinner, I'm feeling the signature 7-day dry-aged duck from the Gilded Sparrow, the one the head chef makes himself. Also, open a bottle of that single-barrel bourbon from my private collection. And after dinner, I want a bath. Use plenty of the essential oils. I close my eyes, letting my full weight sag against my butler. The system in my head went completely silent. It probably never imagined that someone could treat its punishment as a spa day. When it came to doing absolutely nothing, I was a professional. The system, apparently stunned by my shamelessness, didn't make a peep for the rest of the night. I enjoyed the peace and quiet, soaking in a tub that cost more than my old car, sipping on smooth, smoky bourbon. I felt I had truly made it. The next morning, I woke up whenever I felt like it. Sunlight streamed through the massive windows, warm and pleasant. I stretched, feeling a deep sense of comfort. The system's weakness punishment was still in effect, which gave me the perfect excuse to continue doing nothing. Abernathy, carry me out of bed. I called toward the door. Abernathy, who had been waiting outside, entered immediately, followed by 2 maids. With their assistance, I completed the entire process of washing up and getting dressed, after which I was carried to the dining room like a Roman emperor. The long table was covered with a dazzling array of breakfast foods, American, continental, you name it. I took a sip of a green smoothie and slowly asked, "Any news about Miss Miller from yesterday?" Abernathy stood respectfully beside me. "Sir," after we escorted Miss Miller off the premises, she immediately contacted several media outlets, claiming you used her and abandoned her, calling you an irresponsible scoundrel. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. And then, Abernathy pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses, a shrewd glint in his eye. With a little guidance from our PR team, the narrative has shifted. He handed me a tablet. A headline from TMZ jumped out at me. Billionaire heirs secret heartbreak. Jackson Price waited 3 years for high school sweetheart, only for her to return pregnant with another man's baby. The comment section was even better. Whoa, you can't even write this stuff for TV. So she couldn't make it in Europe and came back looking for a meal ticket. Poor Jack. I feel for him. Gets cheated on, and then she tries to flip the script on him? What an absolute nightmare. I nodded, satisfied. Abernathy had handled it beautifully, worth every penny of his 7-figure salary. System has detected a sharp decline in heroine Jessica Miller's reputation. Host mission failed. Punishment doubled. The system shrieked in my head again. I felt another wave of weakness wash over me, so much so that I could barely lift my fork. Abernathy, feed me, I said, opening my mouth. Abernathy paused. After a moment of silence, he resignedly picked up a piece of smoked salmon on brioche and brought it to my lips. I enjoyed the full-service treatment, my mood excellent. Keep it coming. I want to see just how far this system would go. Just then, my personal cell phone rang. Abernathy answered it for me. He listened for a few moments, his expression turning slightly odd, then held the phone to my ear. Sir, it's the Van Cess. The Van Cess? I sifted through the information in my new brain. The Vance family, another one of New York's top-tier dynasties. And the family of or rather, the original Jackson's fiancée. A cold female voice, laced with undisguised contempt, came through the speaker. Jackson, I heard you've been neglecting the company for some woman of questionable background. It was my ex-fiancée-to-be, the eldest daughter of the Vance family, Victoria Vance. A classic Ice Queen CEO, a genius in business, an idiot in life. She'd always looked down on the original Jack as a good-for-nothing playboy. It seems there's no need to continue with our engagement, she announced coldly. I'll have my lawyers reach out tomorrow to handle the dissolution. Oh, I replied faintly. Break the engagement? That was fantastic news. Now I wouldn't even have to bother having a wife. I could achieve an even purer state of doing nothing. Ding! Detected that Ice Queen CEO Victoria Vance's affection for host has dropped to absolute zero. Engagement will be terminated. Side quest failed. Punishment will be quadrupled. I almost choked on the bite of salmon I just swallowed. This system had combo punishments. My body instantly went limp, like a puddle of overcooked noodles. I was completely paralyzed in my chair, unable to move a single finger. Abernathy's face paled. Sir, what's wrong? Someone call a doctor. I weakly waved a hand, signaling him not to panic. Then, using every last ounce of my strength, I gave the system in my head the middle finger. If you've got the guts, just kill me already. Victoria's call was like a starting gun. For the rest of the day, I learned the true meaning of when it rains, it pours. Ding! Detected that the runaway bride with a secret baby is about to leave town. Host must immediately go and console her. Ding! Detected that the divorced single mom housekeeper has developed feelings for you. Host must demonstrate your gentleness and wealth to warm her heart. Ding! Detected that the scholarship student you sponsor at NYU is about to graduate. Host must arrange housing and a job for her to display your domineering affection. The system's notifications became a symphony in my head. I was finally starting to understand what a mess the original Jackson's life was. This wasn't a romance novel. It was a goddamn refugee camp for female protagonists. And I was the schmuck running it. Faced with a flood of urgent new missions, my choice was simple. Abernathy, bring me my Nintendo Switch. Abernathy, let's switch up the afternoon tea. I'm in the mood for some French pastries. Abernathy, get rid of all the women trying to see me. Don't let a single one through the gate. I had completely given up. The system's punishments grew heavier and heavier. Now, even opening my eyes felt like a chore. But that didn't stop me from enjoying life. With Abernathy and a legion of servants at my beck and call, I could be a helpless infant and still live in absolute comfort. Host, if you keep this up, you're actually going to die. The system's shrieks had turned into pleas. So be it, I thought, unconcerned. Dying on a full stomach doesn't sound too bad. You win. The system finally admitted defeat and went silent. The world was quiet again. I lay back contentedly on a lounge chair in the garden, soaking up the afternoon sun. Abernathy stood beside me, reading the day's financial news aloud. Miller Group's stock plummeted 30% today, nearing bankruptcy. Sources say the crisis is related to their recent attempt to interfere with a subsidiary of Price Industries. Vance Corporation CEO Victoria Vance unilaterally announced the official termination of her engagement to Mr. Jackson Price. Miss Vance stated she could not accept a partner with no ambition who was lost to a life of leisure. Today's #1 trending topic on Twitter: Jackson Price didn't get out of bed again. The hashtag sparked a nationwide discussion, and ironically, Price Industries stock rose 5% against the market trend. I listened to the news, feeling drowsy. None of it seemed to have anything to do with me. I was just a deadbeat who wanted to chill. Just as I was about to drift off, a gentle voice sounded nearby. "Excuse me, is this Mr. Jackson Price's residence?" I managed to crack open an eyelid. A young woman in a simple, elegant dress stood not far away. Her hair fell to her waist, and her temperament was serene. She carried herself with a gentle grace, like someone who had stepped out of a painting. In her hand was a beautiful, antique-style pastry box. "My name is Sophie," she introduced herself. "I'm a pastry chef at the Gilded Sparrow. I heard that you enjoyed our chef's signature duck yesterday, so my mentor asked me to bring you some new desserts, hoping they might be to your liking." Sophie? I searched my memory banks. Nothing. She wasn't one of the system's designated heroines. She was just delivering pastries. My eyes fell to the box in her hands. I could smell the faint, sweet scent of macarons. My stomach rumbled at the inopportune moment. Sophie heard it. A faint blush rose on her cheeks, but her smile only deepened. "Mr. Price, are you hungry?" She walked over, opened the box, and began arranging plates of exquisite macarons and delicate petit fours on the small table beside me. "I made these myself. I hope you'll enjoy them." I looked at the beautiful little pastries, then at her gentle, smiling face. And for the first time, I felt a flicker of annoyance at this stupid system's punishment. It had robbed me of the simple pleasure of picking up a dessert and eating it myself. For the first time, I was genuinely pissed off at the system. Not because it wanted me to be a simp, but because it was getting in the way of my food. "Abernathy," I sighed. "Feed me." Sophie watched the scene, a flicker of surprise in her eyes that quickly softened into understanding and concern. "Mr. Price, are you not feeling well?" she asked softly. I was too lazy to explain. I just looked at her. In the sunlight, her skin seemed to glow, her long eyelashes like tiny paintbrushes. She was as easy on the eyes as the pastries. Sophie seemed to have completely misunderstood my condition. Watching Abernathy feed me dessert, as if I were quadriplegic, her eyes filled with a sympathy that was practically overflowing. "Mr. Price, your illness. Is it very serious?" she asked tentatively. I lazily raised an eyelid, but didn't speak. Serious? Damn right, it was serious. A terminal case of laziness, with no known cure. Abernathy, right on cue, let out a mournful sigh. The young master. Well, it's a long story. His acting was so good he deserved an Oscar. Sophie fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Her gaze on me became even more tender. "It's all right. You'll definitely get better," she comforted me, her voice as soft as a feather stroking my heart. She took a small, embroidered sachet from her purse and offered it to me. "I made this myself with calming herbs. The scent might help you feel more comfortable." The sachet was embroidered with a delicate orchid. The fine needlework spoke of the maker's care. A clean, elegant herbal scent wafted from it, and it was genuinely calming. I gestured for Abernathy to accept it. "Thank her for me," I told him. Abernathy dutifully relayed my gratitude, adding a tragic, "My master cannot speak, but he is deeply grateful. Look for good measure." Sophie waved her hands, insisting it was nothing. She sat with me for a while, chatting about food and the art of tea. I found she was incredibly knowledgeable, speaking with ease about everything from the nuances of French cuisine to the proper techniques for brewing different kinds of tea. Talking with her was comfortable, not like the women from the system's missions, who were always either crying, demanding something, or trying to get something out of me. Sophie was different. She was like a cool breeze, refreshing and clear. As she was leaving, she kept looking back, her face full of worry. "Mr. Price, you must take care of yourself. I'll come see you again tomorrow." Watching her walk away, I stroked my chin. This girl was interesting. Ding. Warning. Host is detected engaging in excessive interaction with a non-mission target. Cease this dangerous behavior immediately. The system's voice was back, tinged with a new note of frantic anger. I ignored it. "Abernathy, run a background check on this Sophie Hayes," I ordered. As much as I liked her, a little caution was never a bad thing. Abernathy was efficient. Half an hour later, Sophie's file was in front of me. Happy family. Only child, both parents were tenured professors at Columbia. A family of academics. She herself was a star student, winning awards all her life. After graduating, she turned down offers from several major corporations because of her passion for culinary arts and chose to become a junior pastry chef at the Gilded Sparrow. Her background was spotless, her resume as clean as a freshly wiped plate. Most importantly, her family's background seemed to be even more influential than my ex-fiancée Victoria's. The Hayes family was just incredibly low-key, old money that didn't advertise. I looked at the report and smiled. Excellent. Now I could interact with her without any worries. "Abernathy, when Miss Hayes comes tomorrow, have my personal reserve of Dahong Pao tea ready." "Yes, sir." I leaned back in my lounge chair and closed my eyes, feeling better than I had in a long time. As for the system, let it have a meltdown on its own. The next day, Sophie came as promised. She not only brought new pastries, but also an old book on medicinal cuisine, saying she wanted to read it to me. I lay on my custom-made lounge chair, listening to her gentle voice, eating the delicious food she made, and enjoying the top-shelf tea prepared by Abernathy. What more could a man ask for? It was then that an unwelcome guest shattered the peace. Victoria Vance had arrived. She wore a perfectly tailored black power suit, her hair pulled back in a high ponytail, striding in on 4-inch stilettos with an aura that could freeze hell over. When she saw the scene of decadent laziness in the garden, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows knitted together. "Jackson, I really underestimated you," she said, stopping in front of me and looking down with an expression of pure disdain. "The engagement is barely off, and you're already so eager to find a new woman?" Her gaze swept over Sophie, full of judgment and contempt. Sophie, startled by her powerful presence, instinctively shrank back. I didn't even bother to open my eyes. "What do you want?" My indifferent tone clearly enraged her. "I came to give you one last piece of advice," she sneered. "Don't think the Price family can protect you forever. If you keep sinking this low, Price Industries will eventually be ruined by you." "Oh," I replied, signaling Abernathy to adjust my position so I could lie more comfortably. Victoria's face grew even uglier. She had probably never been ignored like this in her entire life. "You," She was so angry her chest heaved. You're absolutely hopeless. Just as she was about to launch into another lecture, Abernathy spoke up from the side. Miss Vance, you may have some misunderstandings about the young master. He held a tablet in front of her. On the screen was the stock chart for Price Industries for the day. A bright red line, trending sharply upward, stabbed at Victoria's eyes. Just 1 minute before you arrived, Miss Vance, Voyager Tech, a subsidiary of Price Industries, successfully launched the world's first fully holographic interactive system. The technology is at least a decade ahead of the industry. Abernathy's voice was calm and steady. Driven by this news, the total market value of Price Industries has increased by $30 billion in the last half hour. The color drained from Victoria's face. Her fingers, clutching her designer handbag, turned white from the pressure. Impossible, she whispered, her lips moving but unable to form the words. He didn't do anything. She'd had people watching me for days. The reports were all the same. Jackson Price was at home, lying around, eating and sleeping like a vegetable. How could a vegetable pull off an industry-shattering feat between naps? Abernathy smiled, a hint of pride in his expression. Our master simply delegates to his trusted subordinates and manages the overall direction. It allows him to live more comfortably. He was repeating my own philosophy, and every word was like a slap across Victoria's face. She staggered back a step, staring at me in disbelief. The worthless playboy she'd always looked down on had somehow orchestrated this massive coup without anyone noticing, and I, through it all, hadn't even lifted an eyelid. I just turned my head slightly to the equally stunned Sophie. Ignore her. Let's continue. Where were we in the book? As Victoria stared, broken, Sophie blushed and quietly turned the page. We were at the part about, for good health, the most important thing is a cheerful disposition. I smiled, satisfied. Exactly. A cheerful disposition is more important than anything. Victoria Vance left in a daze. I could only imagine the hurricane raging in her mind. The man she had despised for years, the man she thought was nothing but a waste of space, had suddenly revealed himself to be a master strategist pulling the strings from behind the curtain. The cognitive dissonance was probably enough to give her an existential crisis. And I, the supposed architect of it all, just shifted into a more comfortable position and continued listening to Sophie read. The way Sophie looked at me had changed, too. If before it was pity and affection, now it was mingled with curiosity and awe. Mr. Price, you're amazing, she said with sincere admiration. I just smiled. It wasn't me who was amazing. It was Abernathy and his team of overachievers. I was just the guy who gave vague instructions like handle it, or that project looks interesting. They were the ones who interpreted my philosophy of ultimate laziness as some kind of enlightened, hands-off leadership style. What could I do? My hand were tied. Metaphorically. Ding. Detected that Ice Queen CEO Victoria Vance has developed a strong curiosity toward the host. Regret value plus 50. Congratulations, host. You have successfully sparked the female supporting character's desire for conquest. The system's voice piped up again, this time with a sycophantic edge. I couldn't be bothered with it. Sophie, I said, don't call me Mr. Price. It's too formal. Call me Jack. Her face instantly flushed the color of a ripe apple. I couldn't. Then give me a special name, just for you. I coaxed. The romance novels I'd skimmed said this kind of thing increased the sweetness factor. Sophie looked down, fidgeting with the hem of her dress, and mumbled for a while. Then, can I call you Jack? She whispered. You already do, I said, but sure. Then you can't call me Miss Hayes, either, she said, gathering her courage to look at me. You can give me a name, too. I looked into her clear eyes and thought for a moment. How about Sophie? Okay, she nodded emphatically, her eyes curving into two happy crescents. The mood was perfect, right up until my stomach decided to make another cameo. Sophie giggled. Jack, are you hungry again? Still smiling, she naturally picked up a macaron and held it to my lips. I opened my mouth and took a bite. It was sweet. I wasn't sure if it was the pastry or her smile. Just as this sweet, tender moment was unfolding, a discordant note broke the harmony. One of the maids came running up, looking flustered. Sir, there's a problem. There's a college girl at the gate with her luggage. She says you told her she could move in. I frowned. Ah, the poor scholarship student from the system's mission roster had arrived. Ding. The innocent college student has arrived. Host must immediately display your domineering affection, pull her into your arms, and declare, from now on, this is your home. The system was back to its hyperactive nonsense. I sighed. So annoying. Interrupting my afternoon tea with Sophie. Abernathy, I called. Sir, at your service. Lock the gates. Release the hounds. I always had faith in Abernathy's ability to get things done. After a brief commotion involving some barking and a woman's shriek, the world was quiet again. Sophie looked at me, a little worried. Jack, is that? Okay, it's fine, I said with my eyes closed. Just a fly. She nodded, seeming to understand, and didn't press the issue. That was one of the best things about her. She was smart, knew when to let things go, and never pried into things I didn't want to talk about. She just quietly took out a handkerchief and gently wiped a crumb from the corner of my mouth. Her fingertips were cool and carried a faint, clean scent. They brushed against my lips by accident, sending a tiny jolt through me. I felt her hand freeze for a second, her breathing hitching. I opened my eyes and met her shy, evasive gaze. The atmosphere suddenly thickened with unspoken things. Sophie, I said, my voice a little husky. She didn't dare look at me. Your pastries are delicious. I'm glad you like them. Are you coming back tomorrow? Yes. I smiled. Just then, my ragdoll cat, Snowball, sauntered over with elegant steps. He walked right up to Sophie and rubbed his fluffy head against her ankle. Sophie let out a little gasp of delight. Oh, what a beautiful cat. His name is Snowball, I said. He's usually pretty aloof. I'm surprised he likes you so much. As if he understood me, Snowball settled down by Sophie's feet, purring contentedly. She cautiously reached out and stroked his back. Snowball closed his eyes in bliss. He's so sweet, Sophie said, her eyes sparkling. I have a golden retriever at home, she said enthusiastically. Her name is Sunny, and she's just as sweet as Snowball. I'll bring her next time so they can meet. A thought popped into my head. The pets getting together before the owners did. That was another classic trope for my research. Excellent. We could arrange that. The next few days were pure bliss. I'd wake up late, then lie around in the garden, waiting for Sophie to arrive with her homemade lunch and her golden retriever, Sunny. Snowball and Sunny hit it off immediately, spending their days wrestling and rolling around on the lawn. Sophie and I would sit and watch them just talking. Our relationship blossomed in that calm, warm atmosphere. I started memorizing all the little things she mentioned, that she liked her lattes with only one pump of vanilla, that she curled her toes when she was concentrating on a book. In return, she took care of me during my illness, even learning massage techniques to help with my muscle stiffness. Every time her soft hands pressed against my very much not stiff abs, I could feel the heat rising in her cheeks. And I couldn't resist teasing her, waiting until she was about to die of embarrassment before gently catching her hand. Sophie, if you keep touching me like that, something's going to happen. Her face would instantly turn a shade of red I didn't know was possible. That kind of innocent, blushing intimacy was far more thrilling than any cheap hookup. Of course, the system hadn't given up. It was still relentlessly issuing missions. Something about a runaway bride returning to beg for forgiveness, or the single mom housekeeper bringing me a midnight snack. But Abernathy and I handled them all with our four-word mantra. Lock the gates, release the hounds. Then one day, I got a call from an unexpected person. My dear old dad, the chairman of Price Industries, Arthur Price. You brat, he roared as soon as I picked up. Get your ass down to the office. Now, immediately. His yelling didn't faze me in the slightest. I yawned. What's up? What's up? You have a nerve to ask me what's up? He sounded like he was about to have an aneurysm. Look at the mess you've made. The Vance girl broke off the engagement. That Miller girl is dragging your name through the mud all over town. And now some other girl, a daughter of the Harrison family, is claiming you knocked her up and ghosted her. I told you to come learn the business, and you spend all day lying around at home. Are you trying to bankrupt this family? I listened to his tirade and found it slightly amusing. But the stock is up, isn't it? That shut him up for a second. That was a fluke. You got lucky, he sputtered. Regardless, you have to get down here today. There's a board meeting And as the heir, you have to be there. With that, he slammed the phone down. I lowered the phone and glanced at Sophie, who was looking at me with concern. Jack, your father. He sounded really angry. It's fine, I said, patting her hand reassuringly. It's just a boring meeting with a bunch of old guys. Ding. Main quest triggered. Attend the Price Industries board meeting. Demonstrate your capability and charisma to the board members and solidify your position as heir. Mission reward. Removal of the extreme weakness punishment. Full motor functions will be restored. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. Now, that was a tempting reward. As much as I enjoyed lying around, it might be nice to walk on my own 2 feet again, and to hold my adorable Sophie in my arms. Abernathy. Sir, at your command. Get the car. We're going to the office. Abernathy froze. Sophie froze. They probably never expected me, a terminal case of laziness, to voluntarily go to the office. Jack, your health. Sophie looked at me, worried. It's fine. I smiled at her. It's time I got a little exercise. If I didn't, I was worried my 8-pack would merge into a no-pack. Half an hour later, at the Price Industries headquarters, in the top-floor conference room, I was rolled in by Abernathy, seated in a wheelchair. The massive conference table was surrounded by people. At the head, of course, was my father, Arthur Price. To his left sat several of the company's old guard, all of them looking grim. And to his right sat none other than Victoria Vance. She was there as a representative of the Vance Corporation. When they saw me in my incapacitated state, a wave of hushed whispers spread through the room. That's the Price heir? He looks like an invalid. I heard he just lies at home all day, doesn't care about the business at all. If Price Industries falls into his hands, it's all over. Victoria's gaze fell on me. Her expression, a complex mixture of disdain, confusion, and a flicker of something she herself probably didn't recognize. Curiosity. Seeing me like this, my father's anger flared up again. He slammed his hand on the table. Jackson, look at the state of you. I ignored him and spoke to Abernathy. Bring my lounge chair from home. This wheelchair is too stiff. It's uncomfortable. The entire room fell silent. Everyone stared at me as if I were insane. Demanding a lounge chair during a board meeting that would decide the future of the company? This wasn't just being a playboy. This was absurd. My father's lips trembled with rage. He pointed at me, speechless. Just then, a smug voice cut through the tension. Mr. Price, it seems to me that young Mr. Jackson is not physically capable of handling the responsibilities of this company. For the sake of the corporation's future, I propose we reconsider the matter of succession. The speaker was a balding board member named Hanson. As soon as he finished, several others voiced their agreement. I agree with Mr. Hanson. Jackson is still young. He should focus on his recovery. A boardroom coup, aimed squarely at me, had officially begun. I leaned back in my wheelchair and almost laughed out loud. This was fun. I hadn't said a word, and these clowns were already jumping at the chance to take me down. It seemed my hands-off approach had threatened a few people's side hustles. Faced with Hanson's open challenge, my father's face turned ashen. As angry as he was with me, he would never let an outsider challenge the Price family's control. Mr. Hanson, Jack is my only son and the sole heir to this company. This is not a matter for you to discuss, Arthur said in a low, dangerous voice. Now, Mr. Price, Hanson said with a fearless smile. We're only thinking of the company's future. Look at the state he's in. Forget running a corporation. I doubt he can even take care of himself. His malicious gaze swept over my wheelchair. I also heard that he recently caused a citywide scandal over some woman of ill repute. How can someone like that lead Price Industries to greatness? You, my father roared, leaping to his feet. I raised a hand, signaling him to calm down. Then, I turned my gaze to the overeager Mr. Hanson and spoke slowly. Mr. Hanson. It was the first thing I'd said since entering the room. Every eye turned to me. Your son lost $3 million in Las Vegas last month, correct? The smile on Hanson's face froze. How did you know that? I ignored his shock and continued. The funds you used to cover his debts came from a loan shark out of Queens who charges 30% a month. To pay him back, you embezzled from the company's procurement department. 3 separate transactions, totaling $5 million. You thought you covered your tracks, but unfortunately for you, The accounting firm you hired to cook the books is owned by my driver's brother-in-law. My voice wasn't loud, but every word landed like a sledgehammer. The color drained from Hanson's face, sweat beading on his forehead. I didn't. You're slandering me, he yelled, his voice cracking. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. Do I need to lay out the evidence for everyone? From your offshore bank statements, to the recorded phone calls with your mistress, to the high-definition surveillance footage of your son at the casino. I have it all. As I spoke, I nodded to Abernathy. He placed a small USB drive on the table and gave it a gentle push. It slid to the center of the table with a soft click. You could have heard a pin drop. Hanson stared at the USB drive as if it were a death warrant. His legs gave out, and he slid from his chair to the floor. No, please don't, he whispered, his face as white as a sheet. I didn't spare him another glance. My gaze swept over the other board members who had supported him. They all ducked their heads, not daring to meet my eyes. Finally, my eyes landed on Victoria Vance. She was staring at me, her normally icy eyes now wide with shock and horror. She couldn't possibly comprehend how I, the invalid, knew so many secrets, or how I wielded such terrifying power. I gave her a little smirk. Confusing, isn't it? That's the point. Because I was playing with cheats, even if the cheat code was a bit buggy. Ding! Congratulations, host, for successfully intimidating the board and displaying your kingly demeanor. Mission completion. 50%. Ding! Detected Ice Queen CEO Victoria Vance's awe value plus 100. Regret value plus 100. She is beginning to question the wisdom of her previous decision. I ignored the system's notifications and turned to my father. Dad, the meeting can continue now. Arthur stared at me, dumbfounded, as if he were seeing his son for the first time. It took him a long moment to find his voice. Right. Let's continue the meeting. The atmosphere in the room had completely changed. No one dared to underestimate the invalid in the wheelchair anymore. The rest of the board meeting became my one-man show. I barely spoke, occasionally offering a few small suggestions through Abernathy's translations. The master's opinion is that we should drop the bid for the Southside development. Let the Vance Corporation have it. It's important to be generous with our friends. The master feels that the renewable energy sector has great potential. Mr. Davis should proceed with full authority. Funding will not be an issue. The master says that Mr. Hanson is getting on in years. It's time for him to retire and spend more time with his family. Every suggestion sent a chill down the spines of the board members. They realized that this lazy heir apparent was, in fact, fully aware of everything happening in the company. He knew who was loyal and who was a traitor. It wasn't that he didn't care, he just couldn't be bothered. But the moment he decided to care, he could turn the entire corporation upside down with just a few words. By the end of the meeting, the board members who had previously sneered at me were now looking at me with undisguised reverence. My father was so moved he was nearly in tears, gripping my hand and repeating, "Good son, my good son, I knew you had it in you." I pulled my hand away in disgust. Don't touch me. In my previous state, even being touched was tiring. Ding! Main quest, intimidate the board, successfully completed. Reward issued. Extreme weakness punishment has been lifted. A wave of warmth spread through my body. The strength that had been stolen from me came rushing back. I stood up from the wheelchair, stretched, and rolled my shoulders. A series of satisfying cracks echoed in the silent room. This long-lost feeling of being in control of my own body felt amazing. Everyone in the room stared, completely stunned by my sudden movement. Your legs, my father stammered, pointing at me. Oh, I wasn't feeling well for a while. I'm better now, I said nonchalantly. Nobody believed that for a second. You could see it written on their faces, but no one dared to ask. In their eyes, I, the heir apparent, had become an enigma, mysterious and terrifyingly unpredictable. I paid no mind to their shock and walked toward the door. As I passed Victoria Vance, I paused. She looked up, her complex gaze meeting mine. Regrets? I asked quietly, my voice low enough for only her to hear. Her body gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shudder. I smiled, said nothing more, and walked out, leaving her standing there, her face pale. The first thing I did after leaving the conference room was call Sophie. Sophie, I'm coming to pick you up from work." Her happy, surprised voice came through the phone. "Jack, you're feeling better?" "Yeah, all better," I said, leaning against the car window and watching the city lights blur past, a smile spreading across my face. "What do you want for dinner tonight?" "I'll cook for you." Ding. Host detected showing affection to a non-mission target. This is a serious warning. "Shut up," I told the system. "I'll do what I want." I pulled up to the entrance of the Gilded Sparrow in a discreet black Bentley. Sophie came out from her shift and saw me immediately. She was wearing her light green work uniform and looked a little tired, but the moment she saw me, her eyes lit up like the 4th of July. "Jack!" She practically skipped over to the car, her face beaming with joy. I got out and opened the passenger door for her. "Get in, my little pastry chef. Tonight, it's my turn to wait on you." Sophie blushed as she got in, and as she buckled her seatbelt, she kept stealing glances at me. "You're really all better?" "Of course," I said, starting the car and flexing a bicep for emphasis. "See? 8-pack abs, not a single one missing." Her face turned an even deeper shade of red. "You're impossible," she mumbled. I laughed. On the way home, the conversation was light and happy. I told her my plan to convert the massive swimming pool into a heated, indoor hot spring. "From now on, you can go for a soak whenever you want." Her eyes filled with a dreamy look. "And I'm going to clear out a section of the back garden to build a greenhouse, just for you to grow whatever flowers you want." "Really?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. "Of course it's real." I turned to look at her, my expression serious. "Sophie, I want to give you all the best things in the world." The air in the car seemed to grow warmer. Sophie's heart was pounding. She could tell I wasn't joking. Every promise I made felt like another brushstroke on a beautiful painting of their future together. Back at the estate, I made good on my promise and cooked dinner myself. My culinary skills were honed back in my old life, trying to impress a girl in college. I was no professional chef, but I could handle a few simple dishes. Tomato and egg stir-fry, Coca-Cola chicken wings, steamed sea bass, and a pot of hot, fragrant corn and pork rib soup. When I set the dishes on the table, Sophie's eyes went wide. "Jack, you made all this." "Try it," I said, handing her a pair of chopsticks. She carefully picked up a chicken wing and took a bite. Her eyes shot open. "It's delicious. This is so good." Seeing her happy expression filled me with a sense of accomplishment. I never knew cooking for someone you care about could feel this good. We ate in a comfortable, warm silence. After dinner, we went for a walk in the garden. Snowball and Sunny chased each other around our feet. The moonlight was soft and silvery. "Jack," Sophie suddenly stopped and looked up at me. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being so good to me," she said, her voice soft and trembling slightly. I reached out and gently cupped her face. "You silly girl. I should be thanking you. Thank you for showing up in my world. You were like a ray of light that shone on a life I had planned to waste just lying down." My words seemed to touch the softest part of her heart. Her eyes started to well up. I lowered my head and gently kissed her. Her lips were just as soft as I had imagined, with the lingering sweetness of the pastry she made. She was hesitant at first, but with a little guidance, she began to kiss me back with a passion that surprised us both. Just as we were lost in the moment, a choked, tearful voice shattered the beautiful silence. "Jackson, you too." I turned my head. Standing in the shadows of a large oak tree was another woman. It was Victoria Vance. I had no idea when she had arrived or how long she had been standing there. But right now, she was looking at us with an expression I had never seen on her before, shattered and utterly hopeless. Her usually cold, proud face was streaked with tears. Victoria's appearance was like a bucket of ice water, extinguishing all the romance. Sophie jumped, pulling away from me with a gasp. Her face was beet red as she nervously tried to smooth down her clothes. I, on the other hand, was perfectly calm and slightly annoyed. Her timing was impeccable. I wrapped an arm around Sophie's shoulders, pulling her protectively into my side, before turning my cold gaze on Victoria. "Miss Vance, trespassing is a bad habit to get into." My voice was devoid of any warmth. Victoria swayed, looking like she might collapse. She saw my protective gesture towards Sophie, and the light in her eyes slowly faded. I just came to ask you one thing," she said, her voice hoarse and nasal from crying. Ask, did you ever love me at all? She finally asked the question that had clearly been torturing her. I almost laughed. Miss Vance, are you delusional? Our relationship, from start to finish, was a business arrangement. A merger. To talk about love? Don't you think that's ridiculous? Ridiculous? Victoria let out a broken, bitter laugh, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. Yes, it is. It's ridiculous. I always thought you were hopelessly in love with me, that you would do anything for me, so I could accept your devotion as my due, while righteously looking down on you for your lack of ambition. I thought that no matter what I did, you would always be there, waiting. It wasn't until the board meeting, until just now, that I realized how wrong I was. So incredibly wrong. She cried as she spoke, looking like a lost child abandoned by the world. It wasn't that you couldn't. It was that you couldn't be bothered. Her gaze fell on Sophie, filled with envy and bitterness. Why her? What does she have that I don't? Before I could answer, Sophie tugged gently on my sleeve. She peeked out from my embrace and looked at Victoria, speaking with a quiet sincerity. Miss Vance, you're not wrong about yourself. You're brilliant, beautiful, 1,000 times better than me. But love, it isn't about why or who's better. He likes me. That's all. Sophie's words were like the sharpest of knives, plunging directly into Victoria's heart. That's right. He likes her. That's all. Those 4 words shattered every last bit of her pride. She couldn't stand any longer. Covering her face with her hands, she collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. The sound was raw and desolate, echoing in the quiet night. The servants who had gathered to watch couldn't help but look on with pity. The once untouchable Ice Queen CEO, now weeping like a jilted lover in front of a rival. It was a pathetic sight. For everyone but me. I just found it loud. Abernathy, I called. Show our guest out. With that, I wrapped my arm more tightly around Sophie and led her back into the mansion, leaving the heart-wrenching sobs behind us. Some people only learn to cherish something after they've lost it. But unfortunately for them, when Jackson Price gives something away, he never takes it back. Not his affection, and not second chances. Victoria's melodrama didn't spoil our evening. Back in my room, I saw Sophie's face was still flushed, and I couldn't resist teasing her. That was pretty impressive back there, my brave Sophie. She playfully punched my arm. Be quiet. This is all your fault. My fault for what? For being a walking man magnet. I'm not, I said, catching her hand and kissing her knuckles. I'm only magnetic to one particular, beautiful woman. The cheesy line, coming from me, made her ears turn pink. Jack, she said suddenly, her expression serious. From now on, no matter what happens, I'll believe in you, she said, enunciating each word. Unconditionally. My heart stirred. I knew this was her vow to me. Good, I said, pulling her into a tight hug. Me too. We didn't do anything that night. We just held each other and fell asleep. But our hearts had never felt closer. The next morning, I woke up feeling refreshed. Sophie was still asleep in my arms, curled up like a contented kitten. I slipped out of bed without waking her, planning to make her breakfast. When I got downstairs, Abernathy was waiting for me, his expression grave. Sir, we have a situation. Go on. Jessica Miller and that college student who caused a scene have teamed up with a dozen media outlets. They're holding a press conference at the entrance to the company headquarters right now. Abernathy handed me his tablet. They're accusing you of toying with their emotions and abandoning them. And they've brought so-called evidence. I took the tablet. On the screen, Jessica was sobbing, while the college student looked righteously indignant. They were showing reporters' bank transfer records, selectively edited text messages, and even a few cleverly angled photos that were meant to look like intimate moments between us. The internet exploded. The hashtag Jackson Price scumbag shot to the #1 trending topic. They've also contacted several of our corporate partners, trying to persuade them to pull their investments, Abernathy added. And the Vance Corporation has released a statement saying they are reevaluating their partnership with us. This was a coordinated attack, aimed at me and Price Industries. And I had no doubt Victoria Vance's hand was in it somewhere. Hell hath no fury, and all that. Sir, what are your orders? Abernathy asked. The PR department is struggling to contain this. I smiled and tossed the tablet onto a nearby couch. What's there to panic about? Let them make their noise. In fact, the bigger the better. Abernathy looked confused. Sir, you mean? Add some fuel to the fire, I instructed. Take all those cease and desist letters our legal department has been dying to use and send them out. Sue them. Sue them until they're bankrupt. And one more thing. Announce that Price Industries will be holding a live-streamed press conference today. I glanced up towards Sophie's room, a gentle smile touching my lips. I have an announcement to make, a very important one. The news that Price Industries was holding a live press conference hit the internet like a bombshell. Everyone wanted to know how the heir apparent, who had just begun to show his true colors, would respond to such a massive scandal. Would he apologize? Or would he fight back? The moment the live stream went active, the viewer count rocketed past 10 million and was still climbing. The chat was a chaotic scroll of opinions. Is the scumbag finally going to say something? Waiting for Jackson Price's apology. Justice for these poor women. You idiots, rich guys don't apologize. He's just going to spin it. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the press conference began. I walked onto the stage alone, dressed in a sharp, tailored suit. No wheelchair, no Abernathy. My steps were steady and confident as I came into view. The flash of cameras was blinding. Good afternoon, members of the press, and everyone watching online. I smiled calmly at the cameras. I know you're all here today for an explanation, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. There's nothing to explain. My words caused an uproar. No explanation? Was he giving up? As for the so-called evidence, my legal team will determine its authenticity. Anyone who has slandered me or Price Industries will be held accountable. We will not let a single one go. I called this press conference today for one reason, and one reason only. I paused, my gaze softening. I want to introduce someone to the world. With that, I held out my hand toward the side of the stage. As tens of millions of people watched, Sophie emerged from the wings. She was wearing a simple white dress, looking a little nervous. She looked like an angel who had accidentally wandered onto Earth, pure and untouched by the ugliness of the world. She walked to my side and placed her small hand in mine. At that moment, it felt like the entire world went quiet. I held her hand and led her to the front of the stage, into the full glare of the cameras. Then, I picked up the microphone and, in a voice filled with a depth of feeling I had never shown before, I made my announcement to the entire world. Her name is Sophie Hayes. She is the woman I, Jackson Price, want to spend the rest of my life protecting. And she is my future wife. The moment the words left my lips, the live stream chat exploded. WTF? WTF? What is this plot twist? A public proposal? OMG, she's gorgeous. So elegant. This is a real-life fairy tale. I'm dead. This is so sweet. The most epic public declaration of love ever. So all that other stuff was fake? I knew it. A guy that hot would never go for those trashy women. Jackson and Sophie relationship goals marry her now. The narrative in that single moment flipped completely. All the damning evidence against me now looked pathetic and ridiculous in the face of the most public, most romantic declaration imaginable. I looked at Sophie, who was so moved by my words that tears were streaming down her face. I leaned down and gently kissed her forehead. To hell with the system. To hell with all the other heroines. In my world, there was only ever going to be one leading lady. The press conference was more successful than anyone could have imagined. The fairy tale romance of Jackson and Sophie became the biggest story on the internet. Price Industries stock soared once again, hitting an all-time high. The women who had tried to smear my name became social pariahs. Jessica Miller and the college student had their social media accounts nuked by angry mobs, and the lawsuits piled up. Their futures looked bleak. As for Victoria Vance, she vanished from public life after the press conference. I heard she resigned as CEO of the Vance Corporation and left the country alone. None of that mattered to me anymore. All my attention was focused on my Sophie. I made good on all my promises. The swimming pool became a beautiful hot spring. The garden now housed a magnificent greenhouse filled with her favorite flowers. We lived like any normal couple, cooking together, taking long walks, cuddling on the couch watching old movies. I, the former master of doing nothing, had become a master of doting on my wife-to-be, and I loved every minute of it. The system, having finally accepted its utter defeat, left me with one final message. "You one of a kind, host." And then it was gone for good. The world was finally completely quiet. 6 months later, on a private island in the Maldives, I asked Sophie to marry me. There was no grand ceremony, no crowd of guests. Just the two of us under a blanket of brilliant stars. I got down on one knee and slipped a ring I had designed myself on her finger. "Sophie, marry me." She was crying and laughing at the same time as she nodded vigorously. "Yes." I pulled her into my arms, feeling like I held the entire universe. I had finally understood. A truly satisfying life wasn't about how many enemies you crushed or how much money you made. It was about cutting through all the bullshit and finding what was real. To be able to lie down with the person you love and watch the sun rise and set. That was the ultimate prize. As for the wedding night, well, let's just say I had a lot of missed time to make up for from when I was sick. After all, I had an 8-pack, a V-line, and a whole lot of stamina. Sophie, my love, I hope you're ready.